Ladies and gentlemen, right before we dive into our topic for today, I would like to ask all of you to focus and have a look on the slide displayed here. So, the slide displayed here is a visual chronology shows how our independence in Malaysia before and after. So, firstly, as we can see there is a picture of the British Army. As we know, right before we have our independence, we are being colonized by the British people in which they are carrying out the policy of division and command. This policy of division and command by the British nation actually puts all of our societies into segregation, where different races have different jobs and being placed at different places in the whole country. For example, for Chinese, they do mining and are located in the city. For the Malays, we are told to be farmers and only stays in the farms and villages. While for Indians, we are told to be the rubber tapper at the estate. So, at that moment of colonization by British, our society has become stagnant and unchanged. When this happened, our society cannot be experiencing social mobility in which our society has remained in their job from the parents until their children, sons and daughters. All of us have to be carrying out the same job, occupation, and stay in the same area as our parents. For example, if my parents are a farmer, then also I will be a farmer for the whole of my life. And the bad effect that can be clearly seen from this is many of children do not attend school. So, when many of children do not attend school, this denies the ability of education to actually becomes a powerful tool for us to increase our social mobility, such as by moving upward in the society. Therefore, I would like to present my task 3 video presentation under the subject of EDU P3143 Sociology entitled Effects of Social Mobility on Education in Malaysia. Ladies and gentlemen, so I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Nurul Syakilla Binti Marhad, and I am from class Tesl I and intake June 2021, May 2026. And my index number is 202-12123-50332. The purpose of this video presentation is to fulfill the requirement of the task given in task 3, which is video presentation. So let's first read the requirement of question. The question states that social mobility is the movement of individuals, families, households, and other categories of people within or between social stratification in a society. So what I need to do or what I need to achieve in this video presentation is to evaluate the effects of social mobility on education in Malaysia. So I need to present my findings in this 30-minute video presentation. So next, before going further into the effects of social mobility on education, I would like to explain and elaborate the general definition and concept of social mobility. So social mobility, it refers to the movement of individuals, families, or groups within a social hierarchy or from one social class to another. So this movement can be either upward, downward, or intergenerational and intragenerational. So I would like to explain further on these classifications of social mobility. So the first one is vertical mobility. So vertical mobility, it is defined as the upward mobility involve moving to a higher social position, and it can also mean the downward mobility that involve how people or society move to a lower social position. So as you can see, I have put an illustration here showing how a person would go into a lift. So the lift, it can take us either upward or downward. So if we enter the lift and we are going upward, it means that we are being near to the wealth, money, and also power. It illustrates the upward mobility that a person can experience. Meanwhile, if you take on the lift and going downward, it illustrates the downward mobility, which often makes someone go into the poor household or being disadvantageous in terms of socio-economy. Second one is horizontal mobility. So, horizontal mobility, it is where people change positions or occupations without necessarily changing one social standing. So for example, if I am an accountant and I decide to resign in company A, but that is because I just need to move and work into company B, in which both situations I am still working as an accountant. That means my wages is not any different and my status in social strata is still the same, in which I am holding a job or an occupation as an accountant, which is considered very good in our society, especially in Malaysia. And the last one, we have the intergenerational and intra-generational mobility. So, this means the change in social status between different or same generations within a family. So let's see. If my parents are born as the ordinary workers in a company, but then I studied hard and I get to achieve a doctoral degree and lastly to become a doctor. That means I experience intergenerational mobility in which I have achieved higher status in social strata compared to my both parents. Okay, so enough with the general definition. We're going to move to social mobility in Malaysia and its effect to education. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to be clear here that when I read effect to education, I actually would like to understand the phrase by saying, what are the roles of social mobility in education? So when we look at the aspect or the context of Malaysia itself, in Malaysia, we have standardized social groups, namely B40, M40, and T20. So, these different social groups that are set by the government and applied to every Malaysian citizens has brings different benefits and wealth to each social group. So, when we have different social groups, we can experience social mobility in which we can move either vertically, horizontally, or intergenerationally or intragenerationally. So when we are admitting that social mobility is a valid practice in Malaysia, what is the consequence to the education, particularly the education of children in Malaysia? So now, I will present to you the main theme of this presentation, which are the effects of social mobility to education in Malaysia. So firstly, I would like to start with the negative point, in which social mobility limits or reduces sources of quality educational resources for all, leading to conflict. So, ladies and gentlemen, since social mobility is associated with wealth and money. So when one experiences falling social mobility or experience the horizontal social mobility, if they are already in lower social strata, it can affect their educational opportunities. So, a senior lecturer for the study of diversity in education in University Kebangsaan Malaysia UKM, Dr. Anwar Ahmad, has claimed that more and more parents choose not to send their children to national day schools and national secondary schools. On the other hand, based on the latest education data, Bumi Putra parents race to send their children to the Marhad Science Junior College or MRSM, and also boarding schools, which we call as SPP in Malaysia. So, what does this actually mean? Why is this a negative effect of social mobility on education in Malaysia? Because when we have different social groups and we can experience social mobility, we actually have classified the schools in Malaysia into different categories, which are elite schools, full boarding schools, cluster schools such as MRSM, SPP, and SFKA, also day schools in cities and rural areas. And lastly, we also have an international school. So, the existence or emergence of these different types of school actually put a different social class or social strata into our own children in Malaysia today. And this is a concrete reality in the education today. So, let's look at this white section here. So, this white section here refers to the families with higher social strata. When families, they are in higher social strata, such as the parents working as the doctor, or they already inherit wealth from their family, they can protect the children from downward mobility because they obviously and of course can access the high quality schools and networks as mentioned above, the elite schools, full boarding and cluster school. And often, teachers have perception that, oh, I need to give more attention to these students because they are richer, because they have higher social strata. Meanwhile, in this yellow section, I would like to give to you the examples of how the lower people in social strata will experience inequalities in school resources, such as having class size reduction, having general school spending, and tutoring received by students are lesser in quality. And of course, the teachers' perception that are present here are teachers tend to ignore and give less emphasis on the well-being of students. So this is actually a negative effect of social mobility. When there are different social strata and students can move upward or either downward in the social rankings, actually those who are already rich, they can defend their own reach, and for those who have lower socioeconomic status, they might have some difficulty to move upward because of how the schooling system in Malaysia nowadays. But then, I would like to give to you what are actually the opposite points of that negative point. So, I will give to you a few positive effects of social mobility on education. So, social mobility, it promotes learning engagement and also academic achievement among students. So, in terms of the intrinsic motivation among students themselves, as students acknowledge, oh, there is a chance for I to move upward in the social ranking because I can use education. So, these students can develop the mindset to focus in the lessons and soon to aim to be the high achievers in academics. So, children from low income such as B40 and medium income such as M40 families, for example, can help reduce the burden on their parents and lead a better life if they have a higher level of education and thus explore more guaranteed job opportunities. So this is a finding that is from Nur Muhammad in an article in 2022. So if we look on the higher level, which is the international level, there is actually a report conducted by UNESCO called 2023 GEM report, in which it highlights the Universal Declaration of Human Rights defines the purpose of education as promoting the full development of human personality, which means when we are defining the rights to education, we actually need to integrate technology to fulfill the potential of learners regardless of context or circumstance. So, technology is actually one of the other aspects that increase the engagement and retention among students. So, therefore, the integration of technology due to social mobility is also a factor that initiates student engagement. So, one proof that I can give is from Kazana Research Institute KRI 2020, in which it says about the efforts to multiply the use of technology and bridge the digital gap between all levels of society need to be done immediately to increase social mobility. So enough with that, we're going to the second point of the positive effect of social mobility in education in Malaysia. So social mobility actually accelerates the social change in education for better. So when we are living in the modern world of Malaysia, we actually have systematic and structured effort to shift our educational practices, policies, and structures as a way for us to address any inequality, for us to support inclusiveness, for us to adapt to the dynamic demands of students from various backgrounds. So, when social mobility accelerates the social change in education for the better, the roles are actually on these two stakeholders. The first one is the government and ministry, in which the government and ministry need to carry out relevant policies and rules. Meanwhile, societies, ourselves, parents, Malaysians, and children, we need to support the social change in education. As what has been mentioned by Gurin et al. And Willem and Berger, the promotion of innovation and diversity in educational settings can be done by fostering inclusive learning environment. And as an effect, it can shed light on the transformative impact of social mobility on education. So this point, I would like to segregate it into two subtopics. The first one, we're going to talk about how social mobility can actually encourage us to give equal access to resources. So, social mobility strategies can help narrow the opportunity gap because we want to ensure that all students, they have equal access to educational opportunities and resources. So this will stimulate the changes in society socially and balance out the opportunities for education. So efforts to make education accessible for all can actually help the underprivileged teenagers. So as we can see here, I have put the system aspiration in Malaysia Educational Blueprint 2013-2025, in which we can focus on the first and also the third system aspiration. The first one is access, in which we want all students to have 100% enrollment. And third is equity, in which we want to reduce the learning gap in the students in rural areas and also in city areas. So examples of equal access to resources can be said as our initiative, such as free education in government schools, scholarships, or fundings. So these are a few real-life examples that I can give to you. The first one is Bantuan Kecil Persekutuan BKP. So BKP is an initiative continued by our government today under Malaysia Madani, in which we provide monthly financial aid for students in secondary level starting from Form 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So this is actually one of our ways to reduce the financial problems in students from lower socioeconomic status. Next one is scholarships. We have a few in higher education such as JPA, PTPTN, and Marhad. So scholarships can be applied for students who want to pursue higher education and also to reduce their financial burdens. So this is also an initiative that we can help to increase the social mobility of students through education. And lastly, Dasar Pengoperasian Pendidikan Rendah Wajib, in which we know when we enter government schools, we have free education except for we pay for the uniforms and also the fees. We also have Scheme Pinjaman Buku Teks SPBT. So this is an example in the level of primary schools in which students from disadvantaged backgrounds also receive benefits that help them to increase their ability to move in the social rankings in Malaysia. And second one, I would like to say about the inclusive policies and administration. So Malaysia, we are promoting inclusive admission policies so that we can empower individuals from diverse socioeconomic backgrounds, accelerate social change by fostering a more equitable educational landscape. So we actually have a few policies of education that actually tells us that, the government realized that students have different needs and economic abilities, thus they need to have an educational policy that protects them and give benefits to them, although they are from lower socioeconomic status. So for example, we can look at the official portal of Ministry of Education Malaysia, in which actually in Malaysia we have a very good education level in which we segregate into preschool education, primary, secondary, pre-university, TVET, special education, Institute of Teacher Education or IPG, and lastly private school. So this kind of segregation in the system actually give a system for us to carry out effective approaches such as special education for students with special needs, language support programs for foreign language students such as Tesl students in IPG, and lastly, we have efforts to reduce discrimination in education. So these are a few examples that I can give. The first one is the webinar Education for All, which we have implemented back in last week in our own Google Meet for IPG KBA students, in which the panels invited here, who are Cikgu Ishka and Cikgu Binti, they have shared their experience on handling students from Integrated Special Education Program, or namely as PPKI. So here, we can actually see how Malaysia has own initiative to provide better education for all so that they can increase in terms of their social mobility. And last one, we're going to talk about the Special School Admission Assessment or Pentaksiran Kemasukan Sekolah Khusus PKSK. So this one is applied to full boarding schools such as SPP, National Religious Secondary Schools such as SMKA, Technical Secondary School SMT, Vocational College KV, and also Royal Military College MTD. So what I can conclude from this example is our own government, it handles the recruitment for Form 1 to Form 4 as well as vocational Year 1 students for the 22 session. And this recruitment is entirely giving priority to candidates from the B40 and also extreme poor groups. So again, these examples actually demonstrates how when our government realized that there is a good percentage of social mobility in Malaysia, we are encouraging it by carrying out this priority to candidates from B40 and extreme poor groups. So, as the end note, I would like to conclude that social mobility has actually very significant effects on education in Malaysia. So, while it can provide opportunities for individuals to access higher quality education in primary school, in secondary school, or even in higher education, it can also create barriers and contribute to the educational inequality. Therefore, it is crucial for the government and stakeholders to work towards promoting inclusive education and ensuring equal opportunities for all Malaysians, regardless of their socio-economic background. To include a concluding section for what I have started earlier, in which I have given to you the examples of Malaysians in our pre-independence period, in which when we are being colonized by the British, right? So right now, I would like to actually make a comparison and also state my thoughts about how our social mobility chances have evolved and become so much comprehensive today rather than before, especially comparing our pre-independence period and also after we have achieved our independence. So as we can see today, based on the examples that I have given earlier, the Ministry of Education and also the government has given so much efforts, initiative and policies that can benefit those who are living in families with lower socioeconomic background, such as B40 and also M40. Therefore, when we look at this initiative that has been done, we need to take note that giving more opportunities for those with more less disadvantageous background can actually opens up a space for them to get the same educational opportunities, because we know that they have lack of money, lack of power, and lack of wealth if we don't help them. On the other hand, we must not say that, oh, when we give educational opportunities for B40 and M40, what about the T20? Don't they have any opportunities or chances just because they are rich? So that perception is wrong, because when we are saying about social mobility, of course, the benefits are already in the hands of those with higher economic background, who are richer and also have better socioeconomic status. So when we are comparing these two backgrounds, we actually need to create a neutralizer in which the Ministry of Education has put so many inputs and fundings and also aids to help the students from less unfortunate backgrounds so that they can have the same chances. And after all, this effect of social mobility on education is the general one and also based on a few examples that I have given earlier. But most importantly, it is the mindset of those people who are experiencing social mobility, whether they want to take the chances or they just want to have the chance but then ignore the possibility of using it with the best effort. So that is all for me. Thank you.